what are the biggest struggles of first-time homebuyers according to first-time homebuyers themselves? So we have a pretty lengthy list for you guys today of, according to the people on reddit.com, what they said is their biggest struggles as first-time buyers right now in the housing market. So we're just going to read through the list and then give a little bit of advice as real estate professionals, maybe talk about it a little bit based off of what we're actually seeing working with buyers ourselves.
And being a real estate professional, you might not even be a first-time home buyer and you have struggles right now. And I think that's very normal. That's okay. I mean, me personally, I'm a real estate agent, and if I'm out there buying, there are obstacles I'm having to go up against. There's loan financial obstacles. There's a lot of missed opportunities because people just think we are stuck in maybe a bad market right now. But I think there's a lot of opportunity out there. So if you are a first-time home buyer, keep your mind open. It's a broad spectrum that we can help you out with, whether it's in Idaho or Oregon or Indiana, wherever you may be. We can connect you with the right real estate agent. If you happen to be here in Oregon and you're viewing this, feel free to contact us. We are happy to help you.
The first struggle of first-time home buyers, according to Reddit, was when I finally get the down payment, a better job and circumstance, the bar keeps moving further and further away from me. So
sales price, maybe an interest rate change.
What you might need to qualify for a home. I was just listening today to something about the housing market, basically just talking about how much more you need to make as a annual income to be able to qualify for a home than you did even just a year ago. So that definitely is true. Like, the bar keeps moving further and further away, which is why they say the best time to buy real estate is yesterday.
I see it everywhere though. Like the old incomes, the old annual incomes, if it was like 20, 30 years ago, you would be great off of 60 grand, a year. Now you have to make over 100, 120 grand just to make a comfortable living and afford today's interest rates with that average mortgage payment. I mean, it really is almost a different world. And that's what I keep saying though. Our job, our economy has got to make a difference when it comes to the rate of pay. And us being independent entrepreneurs, business owners ourselves, having family members that own multiple businesses, payroll isn't cheap. And overhead, there is so much doing in the lease industry, in the commercial side of business, and people have to understand, but the economy must make some type of change for these annual incomes to increase so us employees can be making more money annually. I don't have the right answer, but there is something we have to do as a demographic, but just as people, as U.S. citizens, because we have the vote, right? It's a democracy. So if something needs to change in your area, look into your political system and see where the things can be changed, whether it's taxes, your current living situations, homeless population, wherever it may be. Rant over.
That's a good rant. I guess what I would have to say is there is so much value in home ownership, even if it seems like it's unaffordable or you're paying too much or whatever the circumstance might be, there is still so much value. And at the end of the day, the person who invested in real estate, 20 years down the road is going to be a lot more happy that they invested in real estate than the person that didn't.
Right.
I don't think that person, if we're talking long term, is going to regret that. So with that being said, if you're in that situation, like, just keep trying, keep working toward home ownership, even if it gets discouraging because it feels like it's taking longer, you keep having to save more, things keep changing, like, keep working toward it because it is definitely worth it. The next issue with first-time buyers was where I live, flippers are buying the houses that I could afford, the only houses that I could afford. They often remove the character that I love and decorate them in gray, white, and black. That's funny they say that because we do see gray a lot in these houses being flipped. Yes. And the price goes up so much I can't afford them. And they all look so similar. That's actually pretty accurate.
That is really accurate.
We see that a lot, unfortunately, in our area too, where, we see these really, unfortunately, oftentimes cheap flips, and it's just not good quality. But for some reason, they end up going up so much higher in the price point.
I mean, I think it's just because of the inventory. Everybody knows inventory's been so low. Who's actually selling in a market like this? Sometimes it really is only flippers in your area, and they're looking to make 150 grand over a span of 2 months of work. And I mean, it's sad but true. These things do happen, and if they know the wholesalers, if they're connected with these big warehousers, and they're sometimes doing most of the work themselves, there's a huge financial game in the flipping industry. So if you want to get into that industry and you're not right now, you could be missing out. So go learn a trade, become a home flipper.
The next one is the biggest issue for me is finding a newer home with no HOA. Would you say that's an issue in our area?
So here's the deal. A lot of our newer constructed homes are actually in an HOA community.
Yeah,
now, a lot of people associate an HOA with townhome, condo living, community living. So you're stuck in this little box. But a lot of these newer developments, developers especially, have an HOA included. And yeah, it might only be $30-$40 a month. That fee, you don't even know what it's really being gone towards, but you have this box you have to stay within when it comes to home characteristics, home, yard debris, can you park an RV, X amount of days on the road. You know, I don't know. I think HOAs are definitely out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're not everywhere, though, on every new construction. So I don't want to make it sound like, oh, you find a new construction, there's an HOA attached to it.
Right. The most recent new construction communities that I have worked in Salem specifically, where we're at, have had HOAs. However, they have been extremely minimal HOA fees. I mean, I'm talking maybe like $40 a quarter, like nothing significant. And there are some HOA, rules and regulations, but it's, from what I saw, nothing crazy. But I know there are some people out there that are like, don't want anything to do with an HOA. And so if that's your situation, then you might have to take a little bit longer to find something, especially if you're looking for like affordable, because it seems like the lower price point of new construction homes, like the more affordable new construction homes, if you can find those in our area, at least the ones that are more on the affordable end are definitely the ones that are going to be in the HOA, if that makes sense. The next issue is cliche, but comparison is the thief of joy. The biggest challenge to remember is it's a home for you and your family to share with those you care about. There's always going to be someone on an easier or better looking path, but why miss out on your own? We definitely saw people buying more expensive homes than us when we were first-time buyers, but it's not like we have equal jobs or life situations. We are beyond happy to have our 1950s starter home to make memories in.
I'm just going to stop you. I love that review. I think it's accurate. The problem is I'm that opposite guy. I'm guilty of comparing myself to a home that I just shown, because when I'm showing buyers, I'm sometimes looking at my personal situation and seeing materials and items that were placed in this house, and then home values. Oh, my home's worth more than this one. Why is it worth that? And I'm guilty of making the comparison because I think it's like in our DNA almost, or some people's blood, to just always want to win. And whether it's winning to have the best house on the street, winning to have the best yard, winning to have the best, highest value. There's something in my mechanics personally, and that's why I'm saying I'm guilty of comparing myself to another home seller, usually, because I'm wanting to win and compete in some way. I love that statement, though, because being a new home buyer, first-time home buyer, don't compare yourself to anybody.
No.
I know it's easy to do. I just told you I was guilty. Don't compare yourself to anybody. You got to do what's best for you. If the market is right for you to buy and it fits your mortgage budget, then pull a trigger. Maybe it's not that new constructed home. Maybe it's only that 2-bed, 1-bath home that works for you, your husband, the newborn baby, or the baby that's still in your tummy. You got a growing family, so realize the value of home ownership, if it makes sense for you, what the road can look like 2, 5, heck, 20 years like you mentioned.
Yeah. First of all, good for you for becoming a homeowner and seeing the value in that. Like, congratulations, because now you are officially building equity. It's like the best built-in piggy bank. It's something that years down the road, when you do decide it's time for another home, if you do, it's perfectly fine to stay in the same home as well. Then you can starter homes like that make great rental properties. Like, there's so many different opportunities, I guess you could say. So good for you for even getting your foot in the door in real estate. That is super awesome. But when it comes to home, like comparing, home sizes or just wanting a bigger, better home or looking at what other people have or whatever, I can say from being a real estate agent, my personal experience, I have gone into so many houses, and I have 2 houses that I can think of right now in particular. Okay. One of these houses was what was at the time a luxury in the luxury price range. Okay. It was large square footage, really great neighborhood, very high ceilings, lots of bedrooms, that type of thing. And this home just did not feel good when you were inside of it. It had
thinking of the same
ugly
homes,
You weren't a realtor yet when I went into this home. I don't know what home you're thinking about. This was when I was like brand new.
Okay.
It had ugly, outdated furniture, which really made the home look way worse and feel like it made big, bulky 80s furniture. Like what I'm trying to say is I'm just trying to paint a picture. Like the house was not inviting, didn't feel cute, cozy, even though it should have because it was a really expensive home. And then this other house I showed, it was like less than 1,000 square feet. And I wanted to move on in. It was so cute. They did such a good job at making a great use of space, having great decor. And basically what I'm trying to say is it doesn't really matter like the year or size. You can make the home really inviting and welcoming and just like a space that you want to be in and enjoy, regardless of the year built and the size. You can still make it a really great place, and vice versa. It can be really like large and just not somewhere you want to hang out because it just doesn't feel good in there. So
think of the location, guys.
Yes, location's important.
I think we're going back to a real estate industry and a real estate market, especially where your location's going to be key. Your location's going to be key for your resale, but ultimately for your purchase. Are you going to be happy with your location based off of your life situation?
Yes. The next issue is getting outbid by other buyers or losing to cash offers. Well,
man, that's frustrating.
That's frustrating. And we do see that more in the first time buyer price range than any other price range. However, it's definitely not as much of an issue in our area, particularly, at least as it was, 1, 2, 3 years ago. That was a huge problem.
Right. And, I don't necessarily agree with that Reddit as to why maybe you shouldn't be a first time home buyer. So if you're a first time home buyer, I believe, like I mentioned earlier, there is opportunity out there for you. And don't hold yourself back because of a news headline that is telling you, oh, you're only going to buy this house if it's a $300,000 cash only offer. Yeah. I think there's opportunities out there, especially that sellers are willing to sell, especially flippers, because these flippers, keep in mind, their interest rate is almost double the average guy, or they have a private money loan, and man, they're getting hosed on a interest rate until they sell that property. So there's pressures behind everybody. I tell you what, I think there's more pressure behind a home seller right now than there is buyer.
I agree. Homes are definitely sitting a little bit longer than what we have been seeing. The next issue for first-time buyers is, so this person said, the hardest challenge for us was finding a loan that would work with $0 down and finding a seller to cover closing costs, but we did it. So yeah, that can be difficult. It is, I will say, that situation where, we have worked with buyers before where they spent, it's crazy to think about, but $0 of their own money to buy this house, meaning they got a USDA loan, which is $0 down, 100% financing, and they had the sellers pay for their closing costs. Like, to me, that's just so wild. We've never done it that way ourselves, but we've helped buyers do that. And in markets like the previous markets where when interest rates lower again, because, if they lower again in the next year or so, we don't know for sure if that's going to happen. It will be a lot more difficult. Sorry, I'm having a hard time getting my words across today. It will be a lot more difficult for buyers in that situation to get an offer accepted than in a market right now where it's less competitive for buyers and interest rates are a little bit higher. So keep that in mind. But it is possible. I love when we get to work with a buyer in this situation. They buy their house and then they turn around and sell it a few years later, make a huge profit just from living there. And that just makes me so happy for them. It makes it exciting,
and it doesn't have to be a USDA home loan specifically for first-time home buyers. There's actually some really good lending institutions, and my lender personally that we use. I closed the deal, conventional loan, $0 down, and I had the sellers paying closing costs. So the same exact scenario with a conventional loan. It can be done. There are certain loan programs out there if it fits maybe your income, your credit score, and stuff like that. So definitely something to ask, and I can provide you with a lender ASAP if needed.
All right. This next person said their biggest issue was accepting not going into bidding wars for a single family home. That was a tough one to swallow. Or if I did want a single family home, it was going to be in an undesirable area. I landed on a condo where we closed in 5 weeks from pre-approval, picking it and closing. Okay. That's a pretty
So refresh me. Did they end up closing on an area that they didn't like?
They said
so they settled on location.
So from what it sounds like to me is that the single family homes were all in areas that were undesirable, and then they ended up settling on a condo, which
that were more desirable.
Is a really great option because A lot of people are priced, first-time buyers especially, are priced out of the market right now, but you might be able to qualify for a condo. There are condos in our area for under $300,000, which is wild. There are no houses for under $300,000.
Right.
So you can definitely get more for your money. All right. Number 8 is hearing realtors say you'll find the house you're supposed to be in, or other realtor-isms when they know it's a crappy market for buyers. I don't know. I feel like that's a dumb thing to complain about. Maybe it's just because I'm a realtor, but I feel almost rude not saying that. But I also genuinely do believe that for my clients. Like, hey, the right house comes, like, you're going to find it. That's just how I see things.
I mean, and when we're showing houses, especially a lot of houses, and you just can't make that decision, you're undecisive.
Yeah.
I've brought up to encourage my home buyers is, guys, we're going to know. We're going to know the home. When you walk through the door, you're going to kind of know that's your home. Or leading up to the door, you're going to have these butterflies and anticipation. Now, some homes do let you down because online photos are deceiving. So when you get there in person, it lets you down. But usually when you step in the door, you're sitting there for 10, 15 minutes. You're going to know this is the right home for you.
Yep.
So that's that encouraging. That kind of goes along with that quote, but it's not like, don't worry, it'll happen when it happens. I don't really talk like that with people. I'm more like, hey, this is what's on market. Do these work for you? Yes, no. Usually one of those 20 are going to work for you if you're a motivated buyer.
Talking about this is making me want to house hunt again. It's getting me excited because I'm just thinking back to memories of, because every time we have purchased a home that is a home for us, a primary residence to live in, that's how it's happened. It's been the one that you just walk in and you're like, yep, this is it.
You know.
Okay. So the next one this is the last one, and this is the one that I really wanted to sit and talk about for a minute because I hear it a lot and I think it's important to discuss. Looking at the 10-year history on Zillow, showing that a house that is currently being sold for $270,000 was only worth $120,000 like 5 years ago. This is common. Okay, I'm trying to say under $300,000, but it's difficult to get something that is in good shape and in a safe area. Okay, let's just rewind a little bit. They said the biggest issue for first-time buyers right now is looking at the 10-year history on Zillow, showing that a house is currently being sold for $270,000, must not be in our area, but was only worth $120,000 like 5 years ago.
Yeah, so a home is what a ready, willing, and able buyer will pay for a home. Now, the problem is when all this stuff went down 3-4 years ago, I just said, I'd say 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
Buckle down. This is going to be your new normal. This is your new normal, people. So when you're looking at Zillow history, and at 5 years ago, $100,000 is now worth $275,000, you're just saying, "Oh, I'm overpaying for a home." Are you really? Because why is somebody else, your neighbor, willing to pay that, but you're not? It's a mindset, and a lot of times, and that's what your appraiser's for. If the home isn't worth it, then it's not going to appraise. There's no comparable home for an appraiser to actually say, hey, financial institution, give so-and-so this money so they can afford this home. Financial institutions, greedy. They're not going to lend on that home until it's appraised at a certain value. So if you're worried about that, give an offer you're willing to submit. Don't do the full ask price unless it's competing. And that tells me if a neighbor's buying it, I think you could be in the market buying it too if the numbers made sense for you to afford that mortgage.
Yeah, I just think this topic, just the phrase of a home being overpriced is something that is so overused, and I think it's just not really exactly understood because I think people are, like you said, expecting for home prices to just go down, way down, or all of a sudden, or be back to what they used to be. Like inflation is a thing, and a lot has happened in the housing market in the last few years, and there's really no indication that home prices are just going to plummet anytime soon. I know I was at I was hanging out with some girls not too long ago, and I was talking about how one of my listings was a little bit overpriced. And someone made a comment about how everything's overpriced right now. Like everything is selling for, or is listed at a price that it's not worth. And it just goes back to like the conversation of like, what does overpriced even mean? Or what is, what is a desirable price for a home? What a willing, ready, and able buyer is willing to pay for it, that's what the home is actually worth right now. So it's a hard pill to swallow, but I don't like that. I don't know, that mindset.
Yeah, it's more of a mindset.
We can't be looking at homes for what they sold 10 years ago. I don't want to know what my home sold 10 years ago. That's irrelevant. Like,
if you only knew. The phone calls and conversations I've had with people, and
yeah,
it is what it is. We got to move on. I'm not living in the 80s anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not like my brother, enjoying my glory days. Shout out to you, brother. And we're here in the now. We got to be present, see what's going on in front of us, make educated decisions, rely on a professional that you trust to get the job done.
Yes. All right. So we come on here every single week and talk about real estate. So be sure to come back next week so that you don't miss anything. If there are any real estate related questions that you have, or real estate related topics of any kind that you would like us to cover in the future, comment below or shoot us an email. Our contact information is in the description, and we'll see you next week.